Okay, welcome back. I'm still on the floor, because I'm not done with my laundry yet, so might as well continue this yap session. My voice is getting kind of scratchy now, isn't it? And so the previous video I was talking about social media and sort of its role in society, or that's kind of what it became. I didn't even plan to talk about that, but I started talking and then I went off on a tangent. But what I originally wanted to talk about, so I'm making a separate video for it, is that with the abduction of Hamdan Bilal, I feel like we're going to see that more in the United States. It's already happening to immigrants, to Palestinian activists in the U.S., and to asylum seekers. But I think it's going to happen more. I think it's not just going to be I feel like it's the easy targets now. That's the fascist playbook. You start with the easy targets, and then you work your way up until there's no one left, really, except for whoever the fascists deem desirable. But also that will change as time goes on, because fascism needs a target. It needs a scapegoat, something to blame, because obviously fascism doesn't solve any problems. So you need to always have something to blame, right? And also something to sort of give people like, look, we gave you this sacrifice, this head, look here. Don't look at this failing state, this failing infrastructure, this failing ideology. And so I think here in the United States, we're going to start seeing stuff it's not going to be unprecedented stuff, because it happens. It's not going to be unprecedented targeting, because it has happened in other countries, and it has happened in countries with the encouragement or support from the United States, So like, I think we're going to see our country sort of have a period that's a lot like the dirty war in Argentina, where, if you're not familiar with that bit of history, this was in the Cold War, so the 1980s, where thousands of young students mostly, but really not just students. It wasn't exclusively students, but it was a lot of students got targeted, and it's kind of how it's remembered popularly. Got what's called disappeared. So what happened is they were killed. Many were tortured, many were killed, and then their bodies were disposed of in a way that there were no remains recoverable, right? So they can't be officially considered dead, because they couldn't find the body. They would take them out into the ocean, and dump the remains there, far away from the coastline, so they wouldn't wash back up. So then they would just kind of be, so it's called being disappeared, right? Without a trace, which is so horrible, because then the family doesn't have any closure, and then it's also kind of it's a statement, because it's if you speak out against the junta, then not only will you be killed, not only will you be tortured, not only will you be killed, you will be you're going to be erased, essentially. And not only will you physically be gone and your consciousness gone, your thoughts, what you advocate for, are going to be gone, because we are stamping out your memory. We're stamping out you. And so that's, it's a particularly horrific tactic, but it's not, this wasn't something exclusively invented by the junta in Argentina. This is something that has origins in at least the ideology, and I'm sure the tactics have their origins in the school of the Americas, and sort of U.S. government, which is a CIA, U.S. government affiliated um, organization in, I want to say Panama, that sort of taught different military people from across Latin America who are like U.S. aligned, West aligned, like torture tactics, basically torture and anti-communist ideology as well, and that's where this idea of the subversive comes from, and that's who was being targeted in Argentina, for example, the subversives, students, people who speak out, people who don't fall in line with the regime. So that's kind of like, I think we're going to see stuff like that happening here in the U.S. Like, it's already happened to an extent, I feel like it kind of looked like that was happening in Portland in 2020. But I think we're going to see more of it. And in greater numbers. And I don't remember if I already talked about this on my social media video, but, I try not to just post on Instagram or on social media about like political things, something that just like, or I try not to do like low effort postings like this happened, here's an infographic, because I feel like it flattens. I used to do that a lot, but now I don't, or I try not to, because I feel like it flattens a lot of context and complexity, and also just, it's really hard to summarize like an event that's happened in a few slides on Instagram. You need at least an article, and it's also just not helpful, it's like you post this infographic and sometimes you end up more confused than when you started reading it. But oftentimes, like I'll read an infographic or something like that, and if it's on something that I already have some familiarity with, I almost always am like, oh, that's not quite right, or that misses this aspect of it, or something like that. So I'm sure, I gotta imagine it's like that with, infographics on things I'm not familiar with the subject matter. And I can't imagine that all the ones that are inaccurate are just the ones that or have inaccuracies are just the ones that I've read. I gotta imagine it's just like a limitation of the medium. And so like when I post on social media and stuff now, I try to be more intentional about it. And especially I try to sort of think about it, like if I'm posting something, is it making me think about something in a new way? Is it a new perspective that I haven't seen or thought about otherwise? Because at least that's sort of like giving, if it's made me think differently about something, then maybe it will make a friend think differently, someone who follows me think differently about a topic. And I wasn't always like this, and especially in 2020, I was posting infographics all the time on Instagram. Most of them, I had no idea what I was talking about, or, wasn't really, it was kind of just like a compulsive thing. But also it's like a lot of the time it's like, what else can you do? Like, I think we post stuff like that because like we see something horrific and we're like, what do we do? And a lot of the times it's hard to know what to do, especially in the time we live in right now, where we're sort of a lot more fragmented. There's the sort of local community in a lot of places, especially in the United States, has kind of been eroded over years and years by various factors. And so it's kind of hard to just reach out to someone, your friends or something like that, people, and like, even if you are kind of active, a lot of people, I feel like most people, maybe it's just the circles I'm in, like, aren't going to be talking about politics all the time, and nor would you want to, because you would go insane. but also it means that it's sort of like you don't know who's got your back, you know. And so when I was talking about a bit ago, like what I think we'll be seeing a more overt, or I think we're going to see expanded targeting by fascists of different groups as they try to kind of work their way up the ladder. I don't necessarily know what the answer is, the response is, other than, I mean, it sounds kind of corny to me, but it is also, I feel like, kind of true, is like, other than like building local community, and that's such a general term and it's kind of gets washed out where it doesn't mean anything, but I think what I mean by that is going after what interests you, like things, or at least for me, what it means is pursuing things that interest me and other people that share interests like that, or whether it's art, you know, a shared interest in a particular art form, medium, working on projects, theater, movies, but also, you know, just like kind of making friends, making connections, that kind of thing. You don't have to make best friends with, you don't even have to make friends with a bunch of people, you know, just making connections with people, knowing people's names, and generally getting some judgment on someone's character and letting them see some of your character. You know, I feel like building that is the first step, at least. I don't know what the next step is, but I think that's the first step, and I guess that's kind of what I'm trying to do. And I'm definitely in a better place now than I was like a year ago or 2 years ago when I didn't have that, you know, because I'm living in a new place. So like finally taking the steps to do that, to sort of build up connections, build up community. One, makes me feel better, makes me feel safer. But I think that's like the first step to doing anything productive, I guess, whether it's political or artistic or anything really. So I guess my advice or my thought, and you know, I say this is my advice for whoever's watching this, but it's really sort of a direction to myself, and I'm just saying it in the form of this video, is that like go out and find something that you enjoy, that brings you joy. Go out to like an event about that local to you, or you know, within a reasonable distance of you. Find people who like similar things as you. They don't have to be your best friend, just like make a connection with them. And just try stuff, try new things. And you know, just get to know some people. Is that going to defeat fascism? I don't think so, but maybe it's the first step, or an important step in being able to. That's my thoughts.